like to show you guys how to install a 6mm main shaft in a Trex 450 DFC head, Dominator, Pro, Sport, or any Trex 450 clone like a Taro or a Copter X. It should also work as well. So I don't know if you guys had problems with bending main shafts, stock main shaft 5mm. It's always been a problem for me. If you have a hard landing or a crash, first thing that goes is the shaft. I just got tired of changing them all the time, so I figured I want to go with the bigger shaft, and I found out a way of doing it. So as far as main shafts go, there's a few choices. This is off a Warp 360. I didn't particularly like this one because the finish on this is not that good, because the one-way bearing is going to have to move on this shaft. So I'm just going to forget about that one. The other choices are, I have a this is a Gowie X3 main shaft, and it's finally finished, and it's super strong, hardened. That'll work. I also have, this is also a main shaft from a Mini Protos 450. This will work as well. It's a little bit shorter. And the other choice, I don't have one here, but it's in my copter. It's off a Forza 450, JR Forza, and that's the one I'm using, and it seems to work the best. So right now I'm just going to use this X3 shaft to show you how to do it. First we have to install the anti-rotation gear. Fits on there like that. Put the screw through. Now, because we won't be using this sleeve here, in place of it, the main drive gear will actually engage the main shaft. So eliminate this collar, but we will need some spacers to go from the spacer here, which measures in at 1mm. So we're going to eliminate this spacer, but we will need some shims in place of this collar here. So what I dug around and I found a kit of shims. These are 6x8 by 0.3, and if I put 3 of these on, that works out to, these are 0.3, so 3 times 3. So once you got these 3 shims on, put a little bit of grease in between the shims. You're going to get a little bit of spinning when you're doing an auto rotation or a spool down, so just make it a little bit smoother. Next goes on the main drive with the one-way bearing installed, and now the bearing will be engaging on the shaft instead of the original sleeve that fit on the 5mm shaft. Now, you don't have to worry about this one-way bearing gouging the main shaft, because this shaft is super hard, it's hardened, and it's really nicely machined, so it's going to spin really nice on there. Next comes the, this is the Align stock collar that comes with the kit. That's 6x8 by 1.6, and that goes on next. So that part's done. So next is the bearing blocks. Now here's the original bearing that came out of it. This is a 5 by 11 by 5, but we're going to a larger shaft, so we need a larger ID bearing. Now they don't make a 6 by 11 by 5, but they do make a 6 by 11 by 4. So I've got that installed. I installed that in the bearing block now, but because the bearing is 1mm narrower, we have to space that out 1mm. And what I found some 6x8 by 0.5. So if we put that on and another one 2 times 0.5 is 1 millimeter. So that takes up the makes up the difference for the now instead of using all these washers and spacers and collars here, I found another option. I found this one here. This is a 2.7 millimeter collar that works out to about the same thickness as all these spacers together, and that'll work as well. Now next comes the lower bearing block, and then the upper, and after that collar. Put that in your heli, put it in the frame, and that'll get part of it going. This is the heli I'm using. This is a Taro 450 Trex clone. The next step up, I guess, once after you get your main shaft in and the gears, would be the swash plate. And there's a couple options. This is a swash plate from a JR Forza 450 that will work. The other option is the one I'm using, and the one I'm using is a Mini Protos 450 swash plate. I just chose this one. It's a little bit lighter. It seems to work well, but the one thing, if you use this swash plate, you have to change all the linkage balls, because the ones that come with are quite small. The linkage balls I'm using are from a Trex 450, so I had to change all these linkage balls here, and I'm using all linkage from Trex here, and that seems to work well. Now up from there, you're going up to the Rotor Hub, and the Rotor Hub I'm using is also from a JR Forza 450. That seems to work quite well, and it fits on that 6 millimeter shaft. Also, now the grips I'm using are, these are a Trex 450 DFC grips. That will work with this rotor head, no problem. I'm using the Trex spindle with Trex dampeners, and that's the distance between these grips here is the same as a JR Forza. You can use a JR Forza spindle as well, but I'm just going to go with this one here. Anyway, I don't know why these 450s don't come with a larger shaft. It just makes it a lot easier, less problems. These shafts are a lot stronger, and you don't have to change them as often. Anyway, I hope that works for you. Thanks for watching.